G'day guys, how you going? Today, a bit different from scrapping, I'm going to be sorting out some silver. Now, these two jars here, both have got silver in them, and this had, well, I'll start again. In these jars, I put plated silver, like these items here. When I was refining back when I did my video where I refined $1,000 worth of jewellery, I used the nitric boils to dissolve the silver off items like this, and because they're plated, they're copper underneath. So the benefit was, once the silver had dissolved, the copper was exposed, and then the copper dropped the silver out of solution. Though there was some nitric free, and it dissolved some of the copper. So if you look closely, you can see a band along here of dissolved copper, and then below there is all the silver. There are some chunky bits like here where the copper has broken away from whatever it was attached to, so I've got to try and sort that out. Also, there is bits of solder in there which I assume might be lead, like this where this handle's soldered on. So I'm going to have to also sort that out as well. Now what I want to do is I want to get all that silver powder away from the solution and away from the solder and any bits of copper that are floating in there and so on. So what my idea is to pour all that solution into a sieve. And I'm hoping the silver powder will be small enough to go through the holes, and anything chunky, bits of solder, bits of lead, bits of copper, will be left behind in the filter, in the sieve there. That's the plan. I've not tried this before, so I don't know if it's going to work. I do believe though, however, that the silver powder should easily be able to go through the holes. Now, because this has a very wide lip on it, it's a very deep lip under here, it's hard to pour this into filters and so on. This one's not too bad because it's straight on the edges. It's straight up and down here, so that's not too bad. But anyway, I would like to sort of put it into a bigger beaker and use that to pour through a filter. So once it's been through the bucket, and if this works and if it catches all the big stuff, there will be silver powder in the bottom and liquid. I'll then pour that into a large beaker, or a beaker big enough to house it, and then I'll be able to pour it into a filter. I know it sounds like a lot of mucking around, but I'd rather do it without spilling it everywhere, and that seems to be the best option. So rather than pour from something that's got a wide mouth on it, like the bucket and all that, a beaker would have a little pour spout. It'd be so much easier to direct it into a funnel and a filter. So, first off, pouring both of these into there. So I did take the copper out of here and put in here, but now I'm thinking I'll take it out of there as well, put it into a container, so I can get to that silver powder at the bottom there. I want to treat both of these containers. Somebody asked me when I put the acid into here to dissolve the silver, they asked me could I then melt it straight from that point once it's dropped. The answer is yes, and we'll get to that. Once I sort the silver out, I'll melt it up so you'll be able to see. Alright, so I'm hoping you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to pour this into the filter, the sieve. If this doesn't work, I need to try something different. I'm going to need some distilled water to squirt this jar out. I've got a squirt bottle here with distilled water. It's not a very good squirt bottle though. I'll need to go and change to a different bottle. Okay, so I've got a different squirt bottle now. It's really hard to get the silver past this lip It's not the best jar to be using. I think from now on I'll stick to using the other jar. It doesn't have a lip like this one. My spray bottle's getting empty. I'm going to go and refill it. Okay, it seems to be working a little bit. So the silver is going through with a little bit of persuasion. It blocks up a little bit, but when you squirt it, the silver goes through. And it is catching all the chunky bits. This is really chunky in here, but there's silver amongst it. So what I'm going to do is get a glove on, and I'm going to work it with my fingers gently. I don't want to push the hard bits through. I just want to move it around as I squirt it, so that the silver has a chance to fall through and all the chunky bits stay there. Okay. You can see there's a lot of silver in here. And I can feel it. I can feel all the chunky bits in between my fingers. What I'll probably end up doing is just getting like cups of hot distilled water and pour it in here, because I want to clean the silver anyway, and using hot water is part of the cleaning process. So I try and get the bulk of the silver through first. Wouldn't matter if it was cold, but hot water does do a better job of cleaning it. But to start with, to get most of the bulk through, it'd be easier if I just poured the water in. So I might end up doing that. It's definitely catching all the chunky bits though. Bits of solder, bits of copper. So I'll wash my hands and I'll get a jug and start pouring the water in. I'll do that off camera because I don't know how long this is going to take. I'll be back when it's ready to the next step. Alright, this is working a lot faster than I thought. It's working really well. Almost got most of the silver out. I don't know if you can see how chunky that is. I'll move into the sunlight so you can have a better look. Alright, can you see that? How chunky that is? And you can see, I can see there's blue in there, which is copper, and darker stuff could be the solder, could be silver, could be anything. But all the silver powder seems to have gone now, apart from maybe just a tiny bit still, but a little bit more rinsing and that'll be done. Hope you can see that well. It's really chunky. It's exactly what I wanted. So I'll just give it a little bit more rinsing and then on to the next step. So I've got it all in a beaker now, and there could also be gold amongst that, because when I was doing the refine of the jewellery, each time I poured off the nitric bath into this jar, tiny little fragments of gold powder went in there as well, which is not a problem because I'll be able to get that back later on. I'll worry about that later. So now you can see all the chunky copper, lead, solder, silver that's in here, and I want to boil it. So I'll give you just a couple of seconds to think about what I'm going to boil it in. Some might say nitric acid. Well, if I use nitric acid, it would dissolve any silver that's in there. I don't want that. Some might say sulfuric acid because of the lead that could be in there, and it's quite possible because this solder looks like it contains lead. But if I use sulfuric acid, it would also dissolve any silver that's in there. So in case you haven't figured it yet, I'm going to use hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid will dissolve the copper. It will probably dissolve the lead, I don't know for sure, but it won't touch the silver. So any silver that's still there will be left after the hydrochloric acid boil. And once I sort all the stuff out in this bucket, that will also get boiled in hydrochloric acid to clean the silver up. It'll get rid of any copper in there and so on. But that's a fine powder. We'll worry about that later. I'm going to let all this liquid settle and come back tomorrow, and I'll siphon off the water, get to the powder at the bottom, and by that time hopefully this is finished. So right now I'm going to put hydrochloric acid in. I've only got a little bit in my bottle here, so I'm going to have to fill it up because I've got 20-litre bottles, and I pour it into here for when I need it. Yeah, nothing in here. So I'm going to have to go and fill this up, and while I'm filling this up I'll pour some of it from the big bottle into here as well and put it on the heat, and I'll come back when I've done that. I put some hydrochloric acid in there, and look, it's already reacting before I even put it on heat. So it's definitely dissolving something in there. It's good. Look at that reaction. Hasn't even got heat on it yet. I only just put it here. And it's warm too. It's definitely dissolving something. I know it's not silver. Well, it's the next day, and so I let the silver have a chance to settle, and the hydrochloric acid boiled for about 2 hours before I turned it off, and then I actually replaced the acid in there once in case it was all spent, so I know that whatever could be dissolved it would have been. I'm going to keep that hydrochloric acid because I need to remove some tin from some boards, and I like to use my acid to the maximum so I don't waste any. So whatever's in there now should only be gold, because there could be little bits of gold in there, or silver. It's not going to matter a whole lot if there is any other impurities in there, because it's only going to go into shot anyway, so I can use it for my silver cell. But I just wanted to remove as much of the impurities as possible. So what I'm going to do now is empty that hydrochloric acid, give that a rinse a few times, get it nice and clean, and then put it in a dish like what's on the hot plate to dry it out. But before I do that, I'll just put it aside for a while I do the rest of this, because the silver in here will need to be boiled in hydrochloric acid as well to clean that up. And I've got to start on this, so I've got to remove the bits of copper in there so I can get to the bottom of that silver. And I'll have to do the same thing with that. I'll have to strain it, get all the chunks out, and do exactly what I've done here. So I'm just going to put this over here for now and just let that sit for a while. Down here I've got my silver what's it called, silver stock pot. So I'm going to siphon the water out of there into this silver stock pot. I have a new piece of silicone hose here that I found on a rubbish pile when I was doing street scrapping. It's a lot thicker than what I normally use, so it should siphon quite fast, I'm hoping. So I'm going to need to get my water bottle. I can fill this up with water. I should have left this out in the sun today. It was a really hot day. And if I had left this out in the sun, it would have straightened out. I'll sit it up here for now while I go and sort out a water bottle. Okay, I'm hoping there's enough water in there because this tube's going to take up quite a bit of volume. There should be enough in there to get started even if it doesn't fill the tube. Yep. Alright, so there we go, siphoning away nicely. Yep. I don't want to disturb the silver down there. There's going to be little bits of silver you can see in suspension that will go up the tube and into the stock pot. That's fine, that's what the stock pot's for. So there is copper in there. It's basically a larger version of this, and any silver that's still in suspension, in solution, will come out. And you can see down here, I can see anyway, little puffs of bubbles that come up every so often. That's some sort of chemical reaction that's happening. So there would still be tiny bits of nitric acid in the solution, or it could be things that are dissolving in the water. I don't see what it would be, but getting close now. There's quite a lot of this stuff that's floating now that's going up the tube. That'll do, that little bit of water is not going to hurt. Well, a bit of silver everywhere, so now I'm going to have silver all over the paving. Wasn't my smartest thing to do. Once before I got silver on the floor like this, and you can see the white marks on the floor. I'll have to get the hose and hose it off. Okay, I'll put that up here for now. I'll go and get the hose and hose this off. In case you're wondering what hosing it down is going to do, just going to dilute it so I don't have a big stain on the paving. Oh, my back's killing me. Alright, so now I've got to find something to put the hydrochloric acid in. And then, because I need to use this beaker, so I can put all this into it. I'll go and do that now. Alright, so I've poured off the hydrochloric acid, and now I just need to rinse it. A little bit of silver might go over, but I'm going to filter it anyway later on. I just want to rinse the bulk of this. You can see there's not much in there now. That's okay, that's good. It means I got rid of a lot of the copper and all that. I expected the silver to be very dirty. I might even just leave that little bit in there, it's not going to hurt. So now I'll put all this in. A bit of water's not going to hurt. Just be like diluted hydrochloric acid. You don't see too many people on YouTube using hydrochloric acid to clean silver, but it's actually the best way to do it, because like I mentioned before, it dissolves copper and everything else, but it won't dissolve the silver, so you end up with a really nice clean silver from it. You can almost get it to 3 nines fine without going through a silver cell. tiny bit left in now. My bottle's empty. I need to get some more. That'll do anyway, it's fairly clean. And I need to use the bucket anyway for this, so it's not going to matter too much. So for now I'm going to put this on the heat and get it hot. Basically it's just going to wash it in the water that's there, and then I'm going to let it sit after I've turned it off and put hydrochloric acid in. So I know I didn't boil it in water last time, but since there's so much water in there, it's not going to hurt to boil it in water. Turn it off, let it sit, just pour it out, and then put hydrochloric acid in. Should be an extra step, so it'll be extra clean. So I'll let that do that while I start picking all this copper out. I don't really want to use that jar anymore. I found it was too hard to get it out of the lip. This doesn't have a lip, it's nice and straight. So find a container up here. Nice deep container here. I'll put all this copper, and you can see it's very munky. It's got lots of silver stuck to it, plus all the other contaminants. So what I'm going to do is, eventually when I'm finished doing what I'm doing here, I'm going to put all these pieces. See this soft stuff here stuck to it? I might even tip. No, it's alright. I'm going to put all these pieces into some water and boil it to hopefully remove all the stuff that's on the copper and single out any parts that are just solder and silver and whatever else. I'll be able to see where the solder was that joined handles onto the pots, and you know what I mean, single out all the stuff. So all this stuff here, that could be solder for all I know. So by boiling it all, I'm hoping that all I'll end up with is nice clean pieces of copper that I can then pull out. See, there's going to be quite a lot of stuff in there. There's all this muck in there, look. Yeah, I'm going to put all that into that. You see the copper bowl? I don't know if you can see on the camera the copper that's in there. Might even just give it a bit of a rinse. Alright, so they're now separated. See if there's any more chunky bits here. There's a piece here. That feels like a handle of some sort. I really need to find myself new jars, because even this one, although it doesn't have a lip on top, it has this big lip down the bottom, and kind of makes it hard to get things out of there sometimes. I thought they were a good deal when I got them from a garage sale, but they've proven to be more of a pain than anything else. See in here where it's all caught up. Now I'm going to get some more water and rinse that out. Okay, bottle's full again. Now I can rinse this down. I don't know if you can see how it's all getting caught in that lip. See it up there? It's quite annoying. It's so hard to find a big jar that's just straight. I may need to just go with beakers, I think. Okay, looks like I got it all. I need to go inside for a wash. And you can see the chunky bits here that are left behind. That's what I was trying to achieve. Let me go in here. It's a shame this isn't settled, the one in the bucket there, because if it was settled as well, the whole lot could go in the jar and have a good boil. Oh well. Okay, so there's nothing more I can do for now. Just wait while that boils. And this here, once I've boiled it and cleaned it up, I'll have hopefully some nice clean copper that I can put back in the jar, or whatever I'm going to use next time. Probably this jar until I can find something else. And ready to start dropping more silver. Or I may just put it down in my silver stock pot. Either way, it's going to do the same job. So I'll have to come back once that's had a boil, turn it off, let it cool down, drain it, hydrochloric acid, boil it again. And we should be left with some nice clean silver that I can, well, it might not be pure, might not be 100% clean, because I'm not really repeating it over and over and over as if I would, like when I clean gold, I do quite a few washes in the process. Same thing with silver. Like if I was going to purize it without going through a silver cell, I'd give it quite a few washes. My aim is just to remove most of the debris, so I don't end up putting too much contamination into my silver electrolyte. It's going to still be contaminated, but that's fine. A little bit's fine, just not as much as what it was. So, all right, I'll be back. All right, so what I've done was I've decided to put all this silver in there and do the whole lot all at once. It made more sense to me to do that, and I had it boiling for a good couple of hours. So now what I'm going to do, I was going to boil all the silver, but I think if I just soak it in water and then give it a swish around, a lot of that silver will come off. So I'm going to put all that silver into here. It's mostly just copper, but with silver on it. Especially this one here, this is heavy. It's the top of something, and it's very heavy. And this here you can see is chock full. I don't know what's in there, whether it's silver or bits of lead or something. Same with that. And then all these little bits here, these are likely to be lead or have lead on them, solder. So I'm just going to quickly rinse that all out now. Okay. I might need a bit of paper towel or something to wipe it out because it's a bit dried on there. I'll do that later. I've got the bulk of it in there. And the water that's in here, I'll pour off into there as well, carefully, without disturbing it. Won't matter if a little bit of silver goes over because there's already silver in there. Okay, I just tried to go as much as I can, get as much water as I could out. Not going to matter too much, but now I'm going to put hydrochloric acid in there. And you're probably wondering, why is it so important to get it clean at this point if I'm only going to put it through the silver cell? Well, the way I'm thinking is I don't want to contaminate my electrolyte any more than I need to. So if I get it as clean as I can now, then there's a better chance it won't contaminate my electrolyte. Once I get my first batch of silver crystals, I'll then be able to use that to make electrolyte, and I know that it'll be perfectly pure. But the first time I'm going to make electrolyte will probably be with some of this powder, so I would like it to be as clean as possible. In the future I probably won't go to this effort, but right now I'm just thinking I need to get rid of all this lead or whatever it is that they use for solder, where they join handles onto things. It could be pewter or anything, I don't know. So now I'm going to fill this up with rainwater and let it soak for a while, and then probably tomorrow I'll come out and try and clean it off as best I can, and then pull the copper out so it's ready for my next batch. I've got to give that a stir. You can probably see down the bottom here is dark grey, and then up here is not, because this hasn't got through it all yet, so I want to give it a good stir. I'll do that now and just let it boil for a couple of hours. Something is going into solution. And I know there's no nitric acid in there. It's been boiled several times in nice clean water, and there's no hydrochloric in there from before. This is the only hydrochloric I put in. So the hydrochloric is definitely consuming something, and I know that it doesn't consume silver. So we're definitely getting rid of some sort of impurities. Alright guys, it's been close to 2 weeks since I last filmed. It's been ridiculously hot. At the moment it's just gone 5 o'clock in the morning, and it's the only time I can come out here when it's cool. All week it's not going to be any less than 40 degrees. It's going to hover between 40 and 43 all week, which is, I don't know, around about 110 Fahrenheit. And what I've just done is poured some water into the silver to dilute the hydrochloric acid that was in there. I poured off what I could, and I'm just going to keep pouring water in there, letting it settle, pour the water out, each time taking a bit more hydrochloric acid with it. And once I'm sure that the silver is clean and no hydrochloric acid left in there, then I'll be able to filter it and melt it. So now I'm gonna get my hands dirty. I'll put some gloves on, see if I can get this copper clean. Now, I was just looking at the footage earlier that I've made so far, and I realised that you couldn't see hardly anything of what I was doing. That's the problem with the head mount. There's no way of knowing where it's facing. So what I'm using now is the chest mount, and I can look down and see what is in the frame. So I'm going to get some gloves on and see if I can free any of the silver from this copper. Pull it out, pull the copper out, and I'll end up treating this silver separately because that silver is almost done, and this has got a long way to go yet. I'll have to boil it again, hydrochloric acid again. I'd rather just do this separately. So I'll go and get some gloves on and get started. Alright, so you can see there where there was the handle soldered on. It's not really coming clean. Some of it's coming off, but not a whole lot. And this doesn't look like it's clean copper yet. It looks like it's still got some silver all over it. Like this piece here. You can clearly tell that's still got silver on it. This piece here, it's so rock hard, I can't get that out. And all this hard stuff here, I thought would come off after being soaking for a week or two. It's just not, it's not happening. So I'm getting a little bit of soft stuff out, but this is all hard and crusty still. So I think my only choice with this is to boil it in hydrochloric acid, try and dissolve what I can from it. Anything that dissolves is undesirable anyway. I only want the silver, so it'll leave the silver behind and take whatever else is there, solder or whatever else is there, I don't know. So I'm only getting the tiniest little bits off. I may just have to wait until the next time I'm using nitric acid, let it dissolve more. We'll see. See, even this here, this lid, it's like something I'm finding under the ocean. It's all hard, looks like coral. There's nothing coming out of here, it's all hard and crusty. So I'm not having a win. See, this here is nice and copperish. You see the copper on there. Still silver on the sides though. Still quite a bit of silver in there, especially inside. It's not cleaning up like I thought it would. So I'll just take out what I can. See that? It's all rough as guts. If I push too hard, I'm only going to tear the gloves. There's a bit of copper. There's no silver left on that, so I can pull that aside. This was the handle over a sugar bowl, and a sugar spoon stands up in that teaspoon for sugar, but that's still got silver on it. This is hard and crusty still, whatever this is. Some of these big chunky bits that have broken free are either silver or lead or whatever. No way of knowing. So I'm just going to have to boil it all, that's all I can do. There's a handle, what looks like a handle, probably off that cup I showed you earlier. It's very heavy, so this might even be pewter. For that size, it's so heavy, I don't know. So even the crusty bits down here, all this chunky stuff, I'd say will have to be boiled in hydrochloric acid. It's like all the stuff I filtered out before. That's blue, so that must be copper. Yeah, it's all that's left now is the chunky bits. So I'm going to have to wait till it settles, pour the water off, and boil the chunky bits in hydrochloric, but I may also add some of these pieces, some smaller bits like this. If I was to try and do the whole lot, it would take a lot of hydrochloric acid to cover all that. Unless I make it very dilute, like put a lot of water in there and just do it slower with dilute hydrochloric, I could do that. Or I could just do small batches at a time. That'd be a possibility. I've got all the time in the world, it's too hot out here anyway, so just do one piece each day or something. Alright, so I'll come back once this is settled so I can pour the water off, and I'll keep putting water in the silver over there. Once that settles, pour it off, put some more water in, settle, pour it off, pour water in. I'll just keep going like that until I can get it fairly clean where I can melt it up. Alright, so I think as much silver as going to settle has settled down, but in case there is still silver in solution, I'm going to pour that into my silver stock pot and just down to where the silver stops. So now what's left in my bucket is all the chunky stuff, as you can see. I'm going to try and find a large beaker. I don't think I have any more large beakers. I may need to use that one, so I may need to wait until I can pour that silver, once it's rinsed, into something smaller, so I can add this and all this to boil it with dilute hydrochloric acid. I'm still rinsing that. I've just poured more water in there. Let that settle. Probably take till tomorrow to pour it off again. And what I might do is just pour it through a filter and rinse it in the filter instead of continuously putting water in the beaker. That way I freeze the beaker up and I still get to rinse the silver. As you can see, this is dried baked because of the heat we've been having. This filter was full originally, and I thought, okay, I'll start a new filter, but since it's evaporated so much down, I could have fit more in there. But I think I've still got more to go, more than what this filter could have held anyway. It's been about 2 weeks since I last filmed. It's just so stupidly hot. And I've still got, that was baked dry. That was actually dry. I just reconstituted it with some water. So I'm going to take this filter out, store it on here for now. It's just like a rock. See, it fell out like a rock. And yeah, it's not totally clean. It's still got a bit of green to it, but that's okay. As long as I've got majority of the contaminants out, that's fine. Because like I said, it's going to go through my silver cell anyway. Now I'll put another filter in after I rinse this. I'll rinse this into the beaker, get it all nice and clean, and put another filter in, and then I'll filter that. Hopefully we'll be able to finish this video within the next couple of weeks or so. There's no reason it shouldn't be in a couple of days, but because of the heat, it's just stupidity. As you probably heard in my last video, I actually do have a GoPro 8 now. I had to swap cameras because there was an error. They thought that they gave me an 8, but they didn't. Now I definitely have an 8, so all the footage from now onwards will be with the 8. If you guys could tell me, is there a difference in quality from what you see now and what you've been watching? I'd really appreciate that, thanks. Alright, so I'll get this cleaned out, put a filter in there and filter that, and we'll come back on the next step. So I just want to show you guys something. Don't know how well you can see that. People who weren't subscribed, who viewed my videos, 72%, and my people who were subscribed, there was only 27%. So most of the people who are viewing my videos are not subscribed. Could I ask you guys please to hit that subscribe button, even if it's not what you want to see again. If you're not interested in my content, I need the subscribers. If you don't want to be contacted by about my new videos, just don't hit the bell. But please, I appreciate you guys watching, but can you please hit the subscribe button? I'm doing so minimal in the subscribers field compared to all my competitors. One of them just ticked over 200,000. I've only got just over 1,000. So please just click subscribe. That'll do me a huge favor, help me grow my channel. Thank you. I've got the filters here and I intended to melt them. My crucible has got palladium in there. It's a poor attempt to try and heat it up and melt it. Didn't work. So I can't use the melt dish. I do have another one which was also dirty, and I've got that in some dilute sulfuric acid trying to clean it, but it's not working. I've got quite a bit of sulfuric acid in there. There's two milk dishes in there, one smaller one sitting inside the big one. I've had it in here for 2 days. I've just moved it around, put some more water in there, put some more sulfuric acid in there, and I keep trying to clean it, but it just doesn't seem to be working. I don't know why, it usually does. And I've ordered some more, but they're taking their time coming. So what I'm going to do is just call the video here, and just take my word for it, it can be melted. From the state it's in now, just put it in the melt dish and melt it. Maybe someday in the future on a silver video I'll show you melting it, but yeah, so this is how you do it. And I hope you enjoyed watching it. I appreciate you watching. If you could please subscribe, that would help me so much. Alright, I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.